We just need them. So we just need to approve the May 26th regional transportation minutes from May. Judge, you want to?
Yeah. So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion from Judge Pollack and a second from Judge Scott, right?
Yes.
Judge-elect Scott.
Scott Travis.
Scott Travis. Yeah. All right, moving on. We don't have any public comment. We don't have any public comments. Judge, you have any public comments? Okay. County transportation updates. I'm gonna start with Judge Pollack in Trimble County. Judge.
We've been finally getting some paving done, resurfacing, I should say. That's going okay. Getting ready for winter, and that's about it.
Okay. Scott Travis, do you have anything from Spencer County?
Similar report.
Okay.
They've been working with different roads, county and state both. Some good paving been done, and then of course getting ready for winter also.
Okay. Those are the two counties we have represented right now. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next agenda item, which is the Kentuckians for Better Transportation update. And go over the kind of report of that. The Kentuckians for Better Transportation Conference is coming up in January 11th through the 13th. And it's going to be held right in the backyard here at the Kipton region at the Omni Resort and Hotel in downtown Louisville on the 11th or the 13th. It's a very good conference. The judge from some of the local officials come. The governor, Bashir, talks about transportation. Also, Secretary Gray talks from the Transportation Cabinet talks. So I think it's very, besides the partnering conference, transportation wise, I think those are the two best Kentucky ones there. So the next, I'm going to lead into the Kentucky State federal approval. And also in the KBT report talks about, I don't want to steal Justin's thunder on the electric vehicles, but Kentucky federal approved for funding to support electric vehicles charging infrastructure, $89 million over 5 years that the cabinet will receive. On September 4th, the Federal Highway Administration announced approval of the EV infrastructure formula plan. The Commonwealth will receive $89.9 million. $10.3 million is in the current year. $69.5 million is expected over the next 5 years. Lawmakers have allocated $17 million in matching funds during the legislative session. So I know, Justin, you're going to be talking more about this, but on the electric vehicle infrastructure plan, and I've been on calls with you with KYTC and helped with other transportation leaders across the state. So Justin, if you want to go ahead and it kind of goes in your segment, talk about the EVs deployment plan that KYTC that you've been involved with. So.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Randall. And thanks for having me today to speak. My name is Justin Harrod with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. I am the project manager for all things EV on behalf of the cabinet. And right now that is mainly focused towards NEVI, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure initiative from the IIJA/bill that was passed in November of last year. And with that, is it all right if I start sharing my screen? My presentation?
It'd be great.
Okay. Can someone give me access?
Hey, Elizabeth, can you give him access to the?
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Okay. Got
Did you
it?
get
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks, Justin.
No problem. All right. Let me minimize. All right. Yeah, so this will be, I'll try to keep this relatively brief. So apologies for if I end up going too fast. But if you have questions in the end, please feel free. I do not mind to go back and revisit. So just real quick, some EV 101. This initiative for the NEVI is focused solely on battery electric vehicles. You know, there are 3 different types of electric vehicles out there, hybrids, plug-ins, but this one is just focused on just pure electric or BEVs. Also, this initiative is focused just on the level 3 charger, which most have come to know as direct current fast charger or DCFC. These are the chargers that can charge the battery in 30 minutes or less. And this is what the Federal Highways has dictated as the charging level that they would like to see based from the NEVI program. So with the federal funds that Randall mentioned from the NEVI Act or the NEVI program, formula funds totaling $69.5 million will be coming to Kentucky over a 5-year period. And 69.5 is sort of just a small chunk out of the 5 billion that was set aside. There's also another pot of NEVI discretionary grants, and that is a $2.5 billion pot, and that is supposed to be announced supposedly next month, but now we're sort of hearing by the end of the year. So hopefully, you know, that will come out to be announced as quickly as it can be. And one thing I wanted to make sure to note that the formula funds come straight to the state DOT, KYTC, but the discretionary grant funds that will be announced is open to everybody. So that is the only thing you need to have is an application to submit in order to, you know, perhaps get approved for funding out of that pot. So the goal of our NEVI plan is to make sure to provide all of the Commonwealth citizens of Kentucky a electric vehicle charging system that is convenient, reliable, and affordable, and also equitable across our whole state. You know, Federal Highways has kind of specified that they would like to see a national network. And while we do want to provide that national network, we also want to provide an intrastate network. And so we plan to do that with the funding that will be coming to us. So like I mentioned, 69.5 over 5 years. We have recently been given access to about 25 million. That's the fiscal year of 2022 and 2023. And with the non-federal match, that comes to about almost $87 million. Randall mentioned that, you know, from the last general session, you know, they passed about what that match would be. But we are also planning to work with the private industry for a kind of a partnership on, you know, opportunities where the state and private can work together and maybe hopefully stretch the dollars even a little bit more. In order to get these chargers in across the state. And so one of the main focuses will be on the alternative fuel corridors. That is where we have to focus first, according to Federal Highways. And in Kentucky, those routes are all the interstates and parkways in the state. And I have a map of that in just a second. There are also charging station requirements that Federal Highways has put out regarding this program. And you know, they have to be spaced every 50 miles, no more than 1 mile off the corridor. It has to be 4 ports at 150 kilowatts per port for 600 kilowatts total. And there's a few others as well that we'll get into, but those are the main ones. And as Randall mentioned, our plan was approved September 14th from the Federal Highways Joint Office. And we were in the first round of states to be approved. And that is what helped us to secure that initial first 25 million of the 69.5 million. And then on your right, you'll see the press release released by the governor's office. So in Kentucky, we quickly wanted to make sure, how can this look in our state? And so on your screen, you'll see our primary interstates, our parkways, and what the cabinet believed to be other priority highways once we sort of got done with the AFC network. And the AFC network that is the blue colors that you see on your screen. We really wanted to start with how can we provide that national and intrastate network, but then also kind of focus on where do we need to start filling in gaps where the AFC corridors didn't really hit. And because we don't want to make sure part of this, the goal is to make sure that we're not leaving any part of the state out. And so on your screen, back in July, Federal Highways approved our AFC network. And we also have hydrogen corridors as well approved for our state. These are the electric vehicle corridors, but for hydrogen, we also had I-75, I-65, and I-64 approved. And for the hydrogen effort, the EEC off agency is leading that, the Energy and Environmental Cabinet. And so how we see this kind of being phased throughout the 5-year program is sort of about 2.5 years taking to build out the what we call phase 1 and phase 2, the primary interstates and the parkways / other freeways / interstates. And kind of hopefully, doing that concurrently, building that together. And that's estimated to be roughly about $40 million. Now, I will say, because the cost of inflation and materials and manufacturing products right now, these numbers are subject to change. But this is where we stand as of this moment. And then by the time we get halfway through this program and we are at hopefully having the phase 1, phase 2 built out, we then have to put in to the US DOT to receive that build out approval from the Secretary of Transportation, which right now is Pete Buttigieg. And so with that, once we get approval, we can then start looking at our phase 3, phase 4, and being able to really kind of, I guess, pop electric vehicle charging stations across the state, because then level 2s would also be incorporated from what we're hearing from Federal Highways. And Federal Highways is working on, at least we've been told they're working on perhaps guidance related to what do states do post approval of that build out certification. And so with that, we hope to be able to achieve just really getting chargers throughout the state by the end of this 5-year process. And so, we're starting with the level 3s and then hopefully being able to switch over to level 3 / level 2s in other parts of the state. And so, as I mentioned, this kind of gives like a visual representation, some of the requirements by Federal Highways that has to be followed in order for the money to be used. And some of the ones that I didn't mention from the previously was, they have to be open to the general public 24/7, and they also cannot be proprietary charger stations. So right now that would include like the Tesla superchargers. Right now, Tesla and another company called Rivian, which has been sort of popping up lately. Those are the two main kind of private industry leaders that are not part of this public process just yet. There's probably going to be some works. There's some rumors going on that perhaps later down the line there'll be a way for perhaps a converter from public to private and private to public regarding cars and the charging stations themselves to be able to then hook up to one another. But right now it's a separate process. And with these charging stations, a cost of about roughly $1 million to like about 1.2 million is what we're budgeting for. I was just on a call yesterday where some states are even budgeting up to like 1.5 million. But that is sort of taken into effect, the inflation and the Buy America component related to this program. So part of our plan process before getting approved was sort of seeing, okay, where in our state right now do we have the traffic and where in our state do we have sort of, the priority for the stations. And so on your screen, you'll kind of see based on long distance travel trips and, following the long range transportation state plan, we did an analysis every 5 years out to about 2045. And this kind of just snapshots sort of the middle of that around 2030, where you can kind of see where in the state where we think, we might have a need for at least one station or perhaps needing 2 or 2+ stations. Now, I will say the state does not want to own, operate, or maintain these. And with that, we are hoping to be able to just kind of help get these chargers built and then sort of step away from the process. And so by 2030, the private industry will be in charge of these stations. And so it will mainly be up to them to kind of upgrade the stations and add additional stations. But, we will help with the beginning process for the first 5 years under the NEVI program. And I will say, by 2045, the whole state is yellow or red. So by 2045, the whole state has reached needing 2+ chargers at any location. And so that kind of also led us to, where do we, the demand, suitability, prioritization, what do we need for the demand? Where can it go? And that kind of speaks to, where do we currently have the power in our state? So we've been working extensively with utilities since about January to understand sort of all the behind the scenes with the grid and where the phase 3 power is located in our state. Because in order to have the 600 kilowatt station or even higher, then you have to have that phase 3 in place. So understanding where those locations are in the state, or where perhaps they might need to go to upgrade that site, was part of a process that we did. And then the prioritization, where is it most needed? Part of the NEVI program also that we need to take into account is Justice 40. And making sure that we are also hitting underserved communities, and then also making sure that these stations are just located in a fair kind of way across the whole state. And so, as I mentioned, our plan did not specify specific site locations, and we will be working with the private sector to determine exactly where to optimize those sites. And we are probably be at that point in the next few months. And so we recently put out a request for information. We put it out back at the end of August. It was due at the end of September. We are currently going through those RFI responses and having one-on-one meetings. And those are wrapping up tomorrow. And from that, we mainly just wanted to learn, planning, deployment, operation, maintenance. What is it that the EV industry out there that's been doing this for years and years, as opposed to KYTC just coming in January, and being able to understand the challenges, the best practices, what worked, what didn't work, just to make sure that when Kentucky does put out an RFP, a request for proposals, that is a successful one, and that there's no issues moving forward. And so from those responses, you'll see on your screen kind of a breakdown of the responses we received. We got 36 responses to our RFI. And so it was kind of, it was good. It was about what we were hoping for, a little bit of everybody kind of putting in. So that was really great. And the responses that we've been getting back and diving through have been a great learning experience as we move forward. And we will be putting together a report that will hopefully be ready sometime next month. And then also putting together more of like a executive summary of that report that I should be able to share with others. And so the process and schedule, you kind of see on your left, July and September, where we've already been, our plan was finalized and approved. We currently are going through our RFI process, having our one-on-one meetings. And then in November, we are hoping to really start our RFP process, where we are creating and developing that to get a draft out by mid-December. And then we will then have a period of about perhaps 3 to 4 weeks of getting comments back, and then putting out a final RFP sometime in January. And then that kind of leading into February and March of being able to get proposals evaluated, and then being able to get contracts awarded and executed to get these deployed and implemented. And I will note that right now there is some unknowns at the moment that could mess or could conflict with the schedule. Right now, we're still waiting on final ruling from Federal Highways for the NEVI proposed rule measures, and then also awaiting the Buy America electric vehicle waiver and the rulings from Federal Highways on those. And so those will have some pretty big impacts as to how this process can move forward and whatnot. Hopefully for the better. We always hope that Federal Highways will allow us a little bit more wiggle room, but then also being prepared if the rulings come in a little bit more strict. So with that, I will pause for some questions, if there are any.
Spencer County.
Can you hear him now, Justin?
Yes.
Spencer County has no interstates at all. We have 2.9 miles of federal highway. The rest of it's all state highway. US 31E is the only federal highway we have. So are we pretty much in phase 4, or do we have an opportunity before phase 4?
Yeah, so I would say that any US routes would probably sort of, we would be looking at also with phase 3 into phase 4. On your screen, there was the ones that we sort of had listed as like sort of high priorities to fill in like some of the significant gaps in the state. But that does not mean that there cannot be others moving forward. The governor shared this map in a press release back in mid-July. And one of the things he mentioned was this was only the start. And I would agree with that, because this is only the beginning, as we will branch out from these routes that you see on your screen. And so while we might not be able to get to Spencer County in the first 2 phases, because we have to focus on the AFCs first, I would say, perhaps the US routes, and then getting into phase 4, where you're really starting to hit communities, that would probably be, more where Spencer County would probably fall in our plan, but also with the competitive grants that should be announced next month. Spencer County is eligible for those and can by all means apply for any funding to get chargers on any road. We have heard from Federal Highways that the only restrictions will be that, they are dividing that 2.5 to be 1.25 going towards electric vehicles, and then another 1.25 billion being able to go towards other alternative fuels like hydrogen and whatnot. And so, that would be one way to get perhaps funding a little bit quicker, as opposed to having to wait on us. And then also EEC is also working on their Volkswagen program, where they will be looking to probably, and don't hold me to this because I still haven't been able to see the final sort of what'll be coming from that. But they, I think, are looking to do non-AFC corridors. And so that would be right now anything off of the interstates or parkways. So that would be another means perhaps to serve. And we really want to try and work parallel with each other to be able to, while we have to focus on sort of these AFC corridors, really helping out communities and other counties in our state that, while they are having to wait for us to get to phase 3 or phase 4, here's some other funding opportunities available to you all to be able to assist. And then, we might be able to come in, at some later date at that point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions online or here in the room? Justin, I really appreciate you doing this presentation in front of the council. And if you could share that presentation with me so I could get it out to them.
Yep.
That'd be work. And thanks for all you do for the cabinet.
And if y'all, if there's any questions in the chat, I'll put the email address that you can send those questions to. And if you just give me like a day or two, I normally try and respond to any questions that come into that email address that we have set up for questions about the EV charging stations and the NEVI program in general for KYTC.
One question I got for you, have you seen, the electric vehicles, go down in price, the cars
Well,
that you're aware of?
I think right now, they have started to, because of inflation, I think they were starting to come down, but then sort of went back up to where they were. But with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the tax incentives that are in that are supposed to help bring the prices back down. Now, I cannot say if they have yet. I haven't looked into detail about electric vehicles with regarding price, since we're sort of on the charging station side of it. But that's
Right.
one thing that I could look into and get back with you, Randall, is, kind of regarding yeah, I know they're high. I know that much. And so, yeah, I like, for myself, right now they're even too expensive for myself. So,
Same
maybe
here.
one day.
That's what I,
But I think,
Well,
this is what
still-
Federal Highways wants to try and help with, is to bring those prices down, and, being able to get that infrastructure out there, and being able to work with all the private industry, with the automakers and other EV manufacturers, helping to get the price down, because they start to be everywhere and not having that supply and demand issue.
all right. Well, thanks, Justin. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Yep. The next agenda item on here is the, Elizabeth, if you can bring up the, transportation bylaws,
Okay, hang on.
the ones online, and I can pass them out. There's no really, changes to the bylaws. We just need to review them and, approve those, bylaws for the council. So. here we go. So you probably already seen them.
Randall, can you see this?
Yeah, I can see those. So the RTC is voting membership comprised of the local officials, who's on the committee, the different types, school transportation, freight. The advisory members are the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and the Federal Highway Administration. Then it talks about the current membership and officers. Judge Pollock, he's you're the chair until January. So we'll have to find another chairman in January. So with that, all I had, just need a motion and approval on those, Judge.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Second.
second it, okay. So I just wanted to share that with the council. The next is the goals and objectives for the Regional Transportation Council. Pass those out too. And if you can bring those up online, Elizabeth, that'd be great.
Are you seeing them? Randall, can you see
So
'em?
last year I did a major update on these goals and objectives, and I put KYTC's vision and mission statements and goals in here. And also in the goals and objectives, I've added, it was the goal number 6, which is invest in sustainable transportation that provides environmental resources and effects of climate change. Kind of talks about the FEMA sponsored hazard mitigation program that SIDS works on. So we'll put that in there. I know Ethan and the SIDS division will like that, but a lot of that is due to the federal grants that are coming down from the bill too, that I wanted to have in this goals and objectives. And that's all I have, and I just need a motion approval, and unless anybody has any changes to those goals and objectives, Judge.
Yeah, looks good. I'll make-
Okay,
I'll second.
Judge Pola seconded, and County Judge-elect Scott Travis seconded that. Next on the agenda item, Elizabeth, if you can bring up that data mart. cabinet's data mark.
Do you see it?
I can't see it. You have to close out that. It's that link I sent you on the cabinets. That one. Okay. And if you can click on the county, Elizabeth, click on that row and,
Okay,
okay. And then put in Spencer County. So this is just for example. This is a very good tool. And Justin's used this probably from KYTC a bunch of times, but it talks about, so you can bring up individual counties on here, and it talks about square miles, who the county judge is, how many state maintained miles there is. And then also it talks about crashes. So if Elizabeth, click on like roads or bridges on here. Scroll up on the, yeah, that one right there, roads. So it talks about the highway plan in here, the national highway system. You can also get traffic counts off of here, judges. So it's a very good, useful tool. So when the public calls or, you know, if you can email, if you want to email me, I can get you the information, but I just wanted to show you this data mart and how the ads have been using this too. You can also use GIS. They have shape files in here. If you go into like spatial, it also has shape files on that. It's got the National Freight Highway System, the coal haul system roads, alpha by county of all 120 counties in Kentucky. So like I said, I think this is a good tool. I wanted to share with you guys and everything. So, and it's on, you just go, all you have to do is go to, I can send out the link to you guys, but all you have to do is go to the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet's website and then click on data mark and that'll get you the information there.
I've already been looking at it. I like it.
Good, Judge.
A lot of hand tools there, a lot of good information.
Good. So with that, I think that was all on the agenda. And I think our next meeting will be the 26th of January at 1 o'clock. So just need a motion to adjourn if anybody has any other questions.
So move.
All right.
Second.
All right. Y'all have a good rest of the day.